On the morning of October 18th, 2013, a man named Martin Wells left his home in Brookvale County, West Virginia. He told his wife, Sandra, that he was going on a solo hunting trip for the weekend. Martin was 43 years old and worked as an electrician. He said he would be back by Sunday. He packed his things, locked up the shed, and drove off in his silver 2000 Ford F-150 truck. It was still dark outside. That was the last time anyone ever saw him. The weekend passed, then Monday came. But Martin never came back. He didn't call, his phone was off, his bank cards were never used again. At first, people thought he got lost in the woods. Police searched the area, planes flew over, dogs were brought in to help, but there was no sign of Martin, not even his truck. Then, a letter came in the mail. It was sent to Sandra. The letter said, "I left. I need peace. Don't look for me." It wasn't signed. But Sandra said the handwriting looked like Martin's. That letter changed everything. The search stopped. The case went quiet. Police said maybe Martin ran away on purpose. But that wasn't the truth. Martin didn't run. Martin didn't disappear. Martin never left that town. And it would take 8 years and a simple traffic stop to bring his name back into the light. Martin Wells was the kind of man who didn't talk much. But when he did, people listened. He lived in a small house at the edge of town in Brookvale County, West Virginia, with his wife Sandra, who was 39 years old at the time. They had been married for almost 15 years. No kids, just the two of them in a quiet life. Martin was an electrician. He worked hard and didn't complain. He fixed wires and systems at big plants and job sites. He had been doing that for almost 20 years. He usually worked on contracts that lasted a few months. Some were far from home. But he always came back. He didn't have many close friends, but he loved the outdoors. Every fall, like clockwork, Martin would pack up his gear and head out for a solo hunting trip. He always went alone. It was his way to relax. He liked the cold air, the peace, the space to think. Sandra said Martin always left around the same time each year, mid-October, before the big crowds came in. He would be gone for a few days, come back with some stories, maybe some meat, and go right back to work. She said he looked forward to it all year. He was the type of person who followed rules. He kept his things neat. He checked in when he was away. He didn't drink much. He didn't cause problems. So when he didn't come home that Sunday and didn't call by Monday morning, Sandra knew something was wrong. This wasn't like Martin. Not even close. Monday morning, October 21st, 2013, Sandra Wells sat at her kitchen table. The coffee was cold. The house was quiet. Martin still hadn't come home. He was supposed to be back the day before. He always called if he was running late. But now, there were no calls. His phone went straight to voicemail. Sandra waited a few more hours, but deep down, she already knew this wasn't normal. By noon, she called the Brookvale County Sheriff's Office to report him missing. She told them Martin had gone hunting in the Eagle Ridge Game Reserve, about 40 miles north. It was a big forest with lots of space and very few people. He had gone there many times before. The police treated it like a normal search. They said maybe Martin had gotten lost, maybe his truck broke down, maybe he'd show up. But Sandra didn't believe that. Martin didn't just get lost. He always left maps with her. He always had a plan. Still, the sheriff's office sent out search teams. They brought in volunteers, helicopters, and even dogs trained to sniff for people. They searched the main trails, they checked nearby roads, they looked for signs of a camp, a truck, or even footsteps. But there was nothing. A forest ranger named John Ellery told police that Martin's name was not in the hunter logbook. At the entrance to the reserve, hunters were supposed to write down their name and license plate. Martin had done that every year before, but this time, his name wasn't there. His truck wasn't seen on the cameras. The game cameras along the forest roads showed no sign of him at all. Back at home, there was no activity on his bank cards or cell phone. His social media stayed quiet. He had vanished without leaving anything behind. Weeks passed. Search teams stopped looking. Then in early November, Sandra got a letter. It was postmarked from Buffalo, New York. Inside was a note that read, "I left. I need peace. Don't look for me." The letter wasn't signed, but Sandra said the handwriting looked like Martin's. She gave the letter to the police. They looked at it. Then they said maybe Martin really did run away. They marked his case as a voluntary disappearance. No more searches were planned. No one was charged. The case went quiet. But Sandra wasn't the only one who didn't believe it. After the letter arrived, the police decided not to search anymore. They said Martin Wells left on his own. They called it a voluntary disappearance. That means a person leaves by choice, not by force. In December 2013, just 2 months after Martin went missing, the case was put on hold. It wasn't closed, but no one was working on it anymore. In May 2014, Martin's name was quietly taken off the National Missing Persons list. His phone stayed off. His bank accounts, email, and credit cards were never used again. There was no sign of him anywhere. His job file was closed. His membership in the electricians' union ended because he stopped paying dues. His name stopped showing up in any system. To the outside world, Martin Wells had disappeared. In March 2014, 5 months after Martin went missing, his wife, Sandra Wells, moved out of their home in Brookvale County. She said it was too expensive to live there alone. She moved to a smaller apartment in a town called Riverbend, about 40 miles away. She also changed her job, moving from the county clerk's office to a desk job at the housing office in Riverbend. That same month, she filed a claim for Martin's life insurance. It was a $60,000 policy, and the insurance company allowed payment after someone had been missing for 180 days. Sandra got the money in April 2014. She used part of it to pay off bills and kept the rest in her savings. She didn't ask for death benefits or try to get a death certificate from the court. She just moved on. Neighbors said she seemed different after Martin went missing. She stopped talking to people. She avoided eye contact. She kept to herself. Later, Sandra started using her old last name Holtz, even though she never got a divorce. At her new job, people said she was quiet but worked hard. She never talked much about Martin. When she did, she just said he was gone. For many people, that was the end of the story. But one person refused to let it go. Martin's younger sister, Angela Wells. She believed something was wrong, and she wouldn't stop looking. 5. The lead that changed everything. Angela Wells, Martin's younger sister, never believed he left on purpose. Angela lived in Fairview, a city not far from Riverbend. She worked as a nurse. For years, she kept asking questions. She called the police. She wrote letters. But no one gave her answers. In 2019, after 6 years of silence, Angela hired a private company that tracks missing people. They searched for Martin's old truck, a silver 2000 Ford F-150. The truck had never been found when he disappeared. The company checked records in West Virginia, New York, and nearby states. But nothing came up. The truck wasn't registered anywhere. It had just vanished. Until one day, everything changed. On May 29, 2021, police in Western New York pulled over a pickup truck for having expired license plates. It was an old gray Ford F-150. The driver was a white man in his early 50s. He was alone. The man told police his name was Daniel Marks, but he didn't have a driver's license or any ID. Something felt off. His story didn't make sense. Police checked the VIN number on the truck. That's a special number that shows who the truck belongs to. The VIN said the truck was registered to Martin Wells, the same Martin who had been missing since 2013. The man was arrested for lying to police and driving a possibly stolen vehicle. At the police station, they scanned his fingerprints. That's when they found out the truth. The man's real name was Raymond Fox. He lived in Riverbend. He had a small criminal record, nothing big, but he was connected to someone police knew. Sandra Wells. Raymond was Sandra's boyfriend. They had been living together for years. Now he was caught driving Martin's missing truck, 8 years later. This wasn't just a missing person case anymore. This was something much bigger. And it was only the beginning. After police found out Raymond Fox was driving Martin Wells' missing truck, they started looking deeper. The truck had been repainted gray, but the VIN number proved it was still the same silver 2000 Ford F-150 that Martin drove the day he disappeared. The license plates didn't match either. They had come from an old trailer that belonged to one of Raymond's family members, someone who had already passed away. Police took the truck to a forensics lab to check for clues. Inside, under the passenger seat, they found an old brown leather wallet. Inside the wallet were Martin's electrician union card, a photo of Martin and Sandra, dated 2010, a gas receipt from a station in Bingfield, New York, dated October 14, 2013. That gas receipt was important. It showed that Martin, or someone using his truck, was still alive the day after he left for the hunting trip. This was proof that he may have never made it to the woods at all. Next, police searched Raymond's apartment, which he shared with Sandra Wells. In a closet, they found a locked metal box. Inside were letters written to Martin's sister Angela but never sent, financial papers from after Martin disappeared, and something shocking: several handwritten drafts of a note that said, "I left. I need peace. Don't look for me." The same exact words as the letter Sandra got in 2013. The letters were not signed, but one had postal stamps from Riverbend, not Buffalo, like the original letter said. Police believed Sandra wrote the letter herself and sent it to cover up the truth. But that wasn't all they found. Also in the box was an old key labeled shed. Police remembered that Martin had locked up the shed in his backyard the morning he disappeared. They contacted the new owners of Martin and Sandra's old house in Brookvale. With permission, they searched the shed. Inside, they found something very strange. There was a hidden wall panel at the back. Behind it was an open space, big enough to hide something or someone. The floor showed stains that looked like old blood. The wood had marks like something heavy had been there a long time. Forensic teams used special lights and found blood spots. They also found a single hair. DNA tests showed the hair belonged to Martin Wells. Nearby, they found a small buried metal box. Inside were Martin's hunting license, his old work boots, a broken wristwatch. Sandra had never mentioned any of these items were missing. Police now believed that Martin never made it to the forest. Instead, they thought he was killed early that morning, possibly in or near the shed. The letter, the hunting trip, the move, all part of a plan to cover it up. On June 6, 2021, both Sandra Wells and Raymond Fox were arrested. Sandra was charged with conspiracy to commit murder, insurance fraud, lying to police. Raymond was charged with driving a stolen vehicle, hiding evidence, helping hide the truth. They were both taken to jail. Neither of them said a word. In January 2022, over 8 years after Martin Wells went missing, the trial for Sandra Wells and Raymond Fox began. The court was in Lern County, and both of them had to sit in the same room, each with their own lawyer. The courtroom was full. Reporters were there, so were people from Martin's old town. Angela Wells, Martin's sister, sat in the front row. The prosecutor, a woman named Rachel Morrow, spoke first. She told the jury, "This was never a missing person. This was a plan to erase a man's life and to make money from it." She showed the jury 4 big pieces of evidence. 1. The letter that Sandra said Martin sent. 2. The blood and hair found in the shed. 3. The missing truck Raymond was caught driving. 4. The notes and hidden key found in Sandra's apartment. The prosecutor said that on the morning of October 18, 2013, Sandra tricked Martin into going into the shed. There, something happened, something violent. She said Sandra and Raymond made up the story about the hunting trip. They hid the truck, wrote the fake letter, and waited 6 months so Sandra could claim Martin's $60,000 life insurance. A woman named Denise Halpern spoke next. She used to work with Sandra. She told the court that just weeks before Martin vanished, Sandra said, "I feel trapped. I'm waiting for a way out." Denise also said Sandra had started seeing someone new, but didn't say who. A police expert spoke about the shed. He said the blood spots matched blunt trauma, like someone was hit hard. Tests showed the blood was human, and the hair belonged to Martin. The handwriting expert said the letter Sandra got in the mail matched the drafts found in her apartment. Even the ink came from pens Sandra ordered at work. Raymond did not testify. He stayed silent the whole trial. His lawyer said Raymond didn't know the truck was Martin's. He said Raymond had nothing to do with Martin's disappearance. Sandra's lawyer said there was no proof of a murder. He said there was no body, no weapon, and no cause of death. He told the jury that Sandra just tried to move on after years of sadness, but the jury didn't believe it. After 3 weeks of testimony and only 6 hours of talking, they made their decision. On March 15, 2022, Sandra Wells was found guilty of conspiracy, insurance fraud, and lying to police. Raymond Fox was found guilty of hiding evidence and helping with the cover-up. They were both taken back to jail to wait for sentencing. Outside the courthouse, Angela Wells spoke to the news. She said, "They told the world he walked away. Now the world knows the truth." On April 20, 2022, Sandra Wells and Raymond Fox stood before a judge for the last time. The judge was Celia Horton. She had read every file. She had seen every photo. She had heard every word in court. When it was time to speak, Judge Horton looked right at Sandra. She said, "You planned this. You lied. You tried to erase a man's life, and you did it all for money." Then she gave Sandra her sentence, 25 years in prison. Sandra would not be allowed to ask for parole for the first 17 years. Then it was Raymond's turn. The judge said he may not have killed Martin, but he helped hide the truth for years. She gave Raymond 14 years in prison. He was sent to a men's prison in Bennett Township. Sandra was sent to a women's prison in Lycoming County. By court order, they are not allowed to talk to each other in any way. Not in person, not by phone, not even through other people. Even with both of them in jail, Martin's body has never been found. The police searched the property and nearby woods, but still nothing. They said the case is now closed as far as the courts are concerned, but the search for his body might continue one day. In June 2022, Martin was officially declared dead by the court. Angela Wells, his sister, held a small memorial for family, friends, and old co-workers. She gave a short speech and said, "They buried the truth for 8 years. But now, he gets his name back." That quote made it into local newspapers. People across the state read about the case. It became one of the biggest cold case convictions in West Virginia history. With help from Martin's old union, some of the life insurance money was used to start a scholarship for people training to become electricians later in life. It was called the Martin Wells Technical Grant. The first students applied in early 2023. But one thing is still true. Martin's body was never found. And the truck he drove, the one Raymond was caught with, still sits in a police lot in Scranton. Faded, rusted, silent. But without that truck, this case may never have been solved. Martin Wells didn't walk away. He didn't leave for peace. He didn't disappear into the woods. He was taken. The people who said they loved him, Sandra and Raymond, were the ones who hid the truth. They made a plan. They wrote a letter. They covered their tracks. And for 8 years, they got away with it. This case didn't have a body. There was no video, no confession. But the truth still came out, because someone, Angela Wells, never gave up. She asked questions. She pushed for answers. She helped bring justice for her brother. Now, Sandra is in prison. Raymond is too. Martin has a memorial, and his name has been cleared. But some things are still missing. His body has not been found. No one knows where he is. No one knows what really happened that morning. So we ask you, what would you have done? Would you have believed the letter? Would you have kept searching like Angela did? Tell us in the comments. We read every one. You've been watching True Crime Vault HQ. If this story stayed with you, give us a like. Share it with someone who cares about the truth. And don't forget to subscribe. We bring you the real cases that go quiet until they don't. Stay alert, stay aware, and above all, stay safe.